Splatoon, Nintendo's most recent foray into constructing a new IP that I actually like. Splatoon was a huge contributing factor to my decision to pick up a Wii U. It's online multiplayer fun that's still hugely popular and successful on the Switch. With the release of Splatoon 2, the original game has been more or less completely abandoned, and for good reason. Being an online multiplayer game, the sequel was more or less a drag-and-drop replacement, leaving no real reason to return to the original. Except, what a lot of people forget is that Splatoon actually has a single-player mode. Both games have a single-player campaign, and while generally well-respected when brought up, they're typically relegated to nothing more than footnotes and discussions about the franchise, or even trailers, commercials, and reviews for the games. I think that's a mistake, and today, I'm going to tell you why. Let's take a look at Splatoon Hero Mode. Splatoon puts you in the shoes of an Inkling, a species of anthropomorphic cephalopod people who have risen up to become the dominant species of Earth after the extinction of humanity due to rising sea levels. The entirety of Inkling civilization is powered by a rare species of zapfish. They're so reliant on these things for energy that the hub of the Inkling world is run exclusively off a single 100-year-old great zapfish. Unfortunately, when we first boot up the game, the great zapfish has mysteriously vanished, leaving Inkopolis on the brink of a complete outage. As it turns out, the giant wish cache was actually stolen by a group of Octarians, a warring rival species of octopus people who are still salty they lost the great turf wars of 100 years ago. If you opt to follow this crazy-looking old man down this sewer grate, you'll be given the title of Agent 3 of the new Squidbeak Splatoons, sworn to take the Octarians to their homes in Octo Valley and recover the great zapfish once and for all. One of the most identifying aspects of Splatoon is its unique mechanics and the somewhat novel way it controls. The Inklings and Octarians' primary way of doing battle involves firing differently colored ink and using it to cover surfaces. This is actually the main objective in the online multiplayer, covering as much of a small map as possible in ink of your team's color. The online mode gives you a pretty large variety of weapons and abilities to choose from, but when you're fighting the Octarians, you're going to be limited to the Splatter Shot, a glorified Nerf Super Soaker that fires ink instead of water. It feels like what really makes this game special, though, is the defining characteristic of the Inklings, the ability to turn into a squid at will. Yeah, you heard me right there. Just give a little tap on the left trigger and you're swimming through ink as a mollusk. As a squid, you can't attack, but in ink, you move faster, jump farther, regain health faster, and are completely hidden from your enemies. And of course, most importantly, you refill your ink tank. All of these added conveniences and extra mobility mean that you have a very real tactical advantage in any area you've covered in your ink. And since you move slower and take damage in enemy ink, as well as vice versa, you're really motivated to keep the ground around you covered at all times. But okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. What are you even trying to accomplish when you play Hero Mode? Well, Hero Mode has you traversing the Octo Valley, consisting of 5 main areas of increasing difficulty. Each one has around 6 levels for you to complete and ends with a boss fight. It's honestly kind of hard to nail down the genre of Splatoon. If you twisted my arm, I could possibly describe it as a 3D platformer not at all dissimilar to Super Mario 3D Land, with a heavy dose of third-person shooter action sprinkled in. Each stage takes place on a set of floating platforms. Your goal is to make it to the end of the stage and rescue a small zapfish at the end, fighting enemies and traversing the landscape along the way. Every single one of the previously described mechanics converge in such a satisfying way to make these levels just so much fun to play. Beyond the awesome core mechanics that I've already covered, each level has its own, well, gimmick, but I feel like that word has an inherently negative connotation, so I'll just say that each level has unique mechanics that make them stand out from the others. There are entire stages centered around invisible platforms that you have to reveal with your ink, or phasing through nets in your squid form, or giant rollers that cover entire surfaces in enemy ink over and over again. I love the level design in this game. Everything is so on point, and beyond just the basic design of the levels, Splatoon feels magnificent to play. The action of switching between your two forms quickly as you move through a level is so fast-paced and fun. Really, there are just a ton of little pieces of feedback that make literally anything you do in the game feel satisfying. The devs took a page out of the old Crash Bandicoot book by placing these crates around everywhere in stages for you to break, which feels amazing. Another big aspect of this game is collecting these orange orbs, which you can spend to unlock weapon upgrades. Almost everything you do gives you a hearty reward of orbs, so anything from splatting bad guys to popping balloons make you feel like you're winning at life. and the controls are so on point. If you've ever played Breath of the Wild, you'll know how precise and frankly magnificent gyroscopic aiming can be. The action is so fast-paced, but you also feel completely in control of your character to a degree unrivaled in pretty much anything else I've ever played. Splatoon manages to do something that not a lot of other games can pull off, at least not this well, and that's make you feel like you're really good at playing it. The difficulty progresses at a steady rate right up until the final battle with DJ Octavio, leader of the Octarians. This is, without hyperbole, probably my favorite boss fight in any video game I have ever played. It is a 20-minute long gauntlet that sees you using every ability and weapon upgrade you've learned so far to ward off a never-ending barrage of high-speed attacks and gradually push the Octarian forces back so you can deal the final blow in the most satisfying way possible. This boss fight right here is the magnum opus of Splatoon. I have actually booted up the game before just to play this boss fight again, and I think that really says something. Hero mode is pretty short and to the point. There are a total of 27 levels and 5 boss fights to complete, and beyond that, there's not much else. Each stage has a hidden sunken scroll for you completionists like me to find, and then of course there's weapon upgrades that you can max out by grinding orbs if you like. I do seriously recommend you take the time to grind out the max weapon upgrades, even if you don't usually care for grinding in games. The final boss fight is a ton of fun with all your abilities at full power, and I actually had a really good time with the orb collection process since it allowed me to route out and get really good at quickly completing a particular level. I had such a fantastic time with Splatoon, and as hugely successful as the franchise is, I really feel like the solo campaign is criminally underrated. Sure, the game might make every top however many Wii U games lists on the internet, but good luck finding one that even mentions hero mode. If you own a Wii U and a copy of Splatoon, but you've never bothered to dive into the story, go do that now. And if you somehow own a Wii U but never picked up this game, go buy it now. You can pick up a used copy for dirt cheap, and you're doing yourself a huge disservice by never having played it. Unfortunately though, the Wii U is such a niche product as is, and with the library of exclusive games growing smaller and smaller by the day, picking one up is looking like a harder and harder sell. With that being said though, Splatoon is one of the reasons I'll always treasure mine. And that's Splatoon. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. It's genuinely one of my favorite games of all time, and I've wanted to cover it for forever. Stay tuned for a big announcement later this week. If you're a fan of Halloween, you won't want to miss this one. If you did enjoy this video, I would really appreciate it if you could like, comment down below letting me know what you think, subscribe to be notified of future uploads, and most importantly, share the channel with anyone you think might enjoy it. It helps out more than you know. You can also find all my socials linked down below, as well as my Discord, which you should totally join. With that being said, that's a wrap, and as always, thanks for watching.